beautiful.
So, you know, when it's really hot, they can practice, and
You want to take it off? Yeah.
when the monsoons come,
Yeah.
they can practice. Because so many times, you know, lightning.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first day update on our reentry of the University of Arizona back to face-to-face campus activities. I'm Bobby Robbins, the president of the University of Arizona, and this will be the first of many weekly updates we'll give the campus community and Southern Arizona and the whole world. Updates of what we're thinking about going forward as we ponder the possibility of bringing faculty, staff, and students back to our campus here in Tucson. It's a beautiful day, by the way. I heard it on my way over. It was about 80 degrees and just a beautiful day in Tucson. So when we decided to go to an all-digital format while we were on spring break in mid-March, we began to contemplate what would happen, how would we ever get students back on campus. And so we're in that process. I think we're about 96 days out from the start of the fall term, and there have been several universities who've announced that they're going to go to an all-digital format. And then more recently, a few universities that have announced they're going to do what we're doing, study the data, let the science and the government, local government regulations guide us, and then determine, would this be an environment that we could protect our faculty, our students, and our staff to bring them back to an engaged residential face-to-face experience. Every week we'll update you where we are. We'll be looking at the data every day. We've got a whole team of epidemiologists, public health officials, medicine, nursing, pharmacy, law, economics, all of our colleges coming together. I can see Provost Liesel Folks on about the 30-yard line there here today with us. And she's done an incredible job of assembling a multidisciplinary, cross-functional team across the university to study all of these different areas that are going to be important as we do the assessment of deciding whether we come back to campus. Dr. Betsy Cantwell is doing the same thing on our research operation. We have about 750 or 800 active labs on this campus. About 200 of them have continued to do research during this pause. And Dr. Cantwell has got a very meticulous plan for getting all of our labs back, since research is a very important enterprise for us at the University of Arizona. So you can expect from us not exactly like a Governor Cuomo update every day. We'll try to do it once a week. And it's thinking about a city of 60,000 people coming back after being on pause for several months is a daunting task. And we're taking this very seriously. Obviously, we're doing a lot on developing an antibody test that we're going to offer to all of our faculty, staff, and students. We're also, in conjunction with the governor, offering that antibody test to first line health providers across the state of Arizona and all the first responders. So these data are coming in. That just launched in this facility, the Jeannie and Cole Davis indoor facility here for sports. We thought was an appropriate place to have this first gathering and to begin talk about the next 96 days as we prepare to welcome people back to campus. This is the site where the first antibody tests were done, and I can publicly announce that I was filmed getting my blood drawn and I was negative for antibodies. Very disappointing to me, but that's the data. The main focus of being here today, these press conferences, these streaming events will be to update you. As I said before, we'll have domain experts, We'll have Dr. Folks, Dr. Cantwell, many others that will provide updates on a weekly basis. But today I'd like to introduce Dr. Richard Carmona, who has been a faculty member at the University of Arizona now for 34 years. He was born in New York City. He's got an incredible story and a career. He was the 17th Surgeon General of the United States, and I've asked him to help us be the commander, the aggregator of all of the activities as we prepare to think about how this pandemic is affecting our entire campus, and to be able to look at the data, aggregate it, collate it, and report it up to me so that we can have a central source of data that we can make informed decisions about whether to go forward with this reentry plan. Rich and I have talked about it. He likes the term recovery plan, and he can talk to you about his experience in handling mass disasters and the use of the incident command system, and how he's done that in many cases across the country and around the world. In addition to being the Surgeon General, he has been a highly decorated wounded Vietnam veteran. He was a Green Beret. He came back to New York City to continue his education, and then ended up at Long Beach State, where he completed his baccalaureate degree and worked as a supervisor of an emergency room, nursing supervisor. And I think, Rich, you told me you were the only male nurse in that hospital, and they took good care of you because you were on the night shift and let you get naps every once in a while because you had to go to class at 8 a.m. And he finished, and he told me that his first acceptance, it's a big deal to get accepted to medical school, and your first one, you need one. And then after that, he had his choice of, he was debating Einstein, Montefiore in New York City, and talked to his brother, and it was cold back there. He was in Long Beach, and it was beautiful for all of you who've been to Long Beach. And then he considered Harvard. You know, maybe one of the few people who've ever turned Harvard Medical School down. They're not very accustomed to that. But he decided, he went to UCSF, where, you know, it's one of the, even though I hate to admit it, spending so much time at Stanford, one of the world's great health sciences center, and finished #1 in his medical school class at UCSF, and then had a distinguished career, obviously, as a Surgeon General. So I don't know many universities that have the great fortune to have someone like you, Rich, to help us and work with us and partner with us as we prosecute this mission of trying to decide, is this a bridge too far? Is this going to be too difficult? And how we would actually welcome people back. Clearly, it will not be the same as it was before spring break in March, and we'll get into some of the questions. But Rich, I thought I'd give you a few minutes to make some comments, and then we can have a brief conversation, and then we'll take questions.
Thank you. You know, the oddity here is when I left Washington, I thought that would be the last time I'd be saying Mr. President. So, Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity to be part of this team that you're putting together, to do the best we can to get our university back online. But I think it's important to also talk about how I perceived your message when you brought me in. Because although the president asked me to come speak to him about my ideas to move the university forward and come back after being shut down for quite some time, the emphasis was always on safety. He said, Rich, I want you to give me a plan, tell me how to do this, but we're not doing it unless it's safe. Unless we can ensure that we've mitigated all the risk, I don't want to do it. But I want you to be in charge, and I want you to tell me, can I do this safely? And I thought that, you know, I was very impressed with the degree of due diligence that you've done and how passionate you were about doing this safely. Where we see so many others just arbitrarily saying, we'll do it or we won't do it, you had a process you wanted to follow. And I said, okay, it's going to be tough. But of course, you pointed out to me a lot of the work had been done with our provost, as you said, Dr. Folks, and then Betsy Cantwell in research. they had a tremendous amount of information and leadership exemplified for some time before I got here. And quite frankly, I couldn't even entertain taking this on in such a short time unless we had those spectacular leaders who had worked so well for you to get all this information. It helps that I've been a faculty member for many years and understand the university. I think the next part of our conversation then was, well, how are you going to do it, Rich? And I think it's important that everybody listening know that this wasn't just a giveaway. It wasn't like, okay, Surgeon General, just do it. He said, I'm going to give you the chance, but you have to make your case. And I would say you held my feet to the fire, because it took a couple of weeks before you said yes. We had many long meetings at night at his house, at his office. I bought documents, and the first discussion I said, when I looked at all of the information that had been provided by the doctors working there, the provost and the chief of research, and I said, how do you execute on this? It was like a university library of information. And how do you put this in a funnel and triage it down to a point where now you can execute on it? Because there was a lot of good stuff there. And I said to you, remember, Mr. President, I said, we need an incident command system. I said, there's a lot of smart people here, but what we really need is an organizational structure that allows us to do this quickly and is tested and proven. And of course, you said, how do I know? So of course, I provided you literature. I went to FEMA documents, Homeland Security documents, HHS. I worked a lot with your chief of staff to make the case. And what's funny, as I look back at this in retrospect, it was as if I was presenting information to my professor in order to go to a national meeting to make a presentation, and you were making me make the case before you said yes. And after many long nights and weeks of discussions and showing how this could come together, meeting with the provost and other senior faculty, Bobby said yes. We drew up a straw diagram of what an incident command system would look like. And for those listening, this is an organizational structure that started in the 1970s that was based on really fighting complex fires, wildfires in California, where many chiefs had to come together in mutual aid, but all of them wanted to be in charge. And somebody started saying, well, how do we get to work together? Who has the jurisdiction? And from there came this system that is now almost a half a century old. And as the president said, I've used it, as have many of my colleagues, which can be used for something in the military. It can be used for a disaster. And the term we use is all hazards. Any and all threats that can affect a community or the United States. So your incident command system might be a little small, might just be a few people. But when you respond to national and international events, it's huge. And the idea of bringing all those leaders together, aggregating information quickly, deciding what to focus on based on the mission that you give us, that's what the incident command system does. And because of that, many of the people that I rely on in this community are people that I've worked with for over 30 years who are fire chiefs and police chiefs because they get to do this every day. My colleagues who are professors, the smartest people in the world are here, but they don't have to solve problems with disasters or active shooters or pandemics. Yet, fire chiefs and police chiefs do that all the time. So as I told you, give me the opportunity to populate my headshed, my leadership with these people, and we will be able to execute, take the best information that this university has, and be able to deliver to you specific information so you can make the best informed decision as to how we progress to open or a hybrid or many other options, but you'll have the best information to make that decision. So I thank you for giving me and my team the opportunity to help you bring our university back.
Well, we're all very appreciative for you stepping up one more time to take on such a mission. When we were bantering around, and you're a trauma vascular surgeon, we speak sort of the same language, and we had vigorous discussions about what is this thing you speak of called the Incident Command Center, and how does it work? And of course, I've watched on the news, but I didn't really understand it, and I'm still trying to learn from you how you could take that system and put it into. You're a distinguished professor at this university, and you're in several colleges as a faculty member, and you understand that when I was trying to describe to you, this is like trying to get the Army, which you're an Army guy, and the Navy and the Air Force and the Marines all to come together for a critical mission. And you said, well, that's called a purple uniform. So I got that. But, some have asked, what is the incident? Why do we need an incident command center to do this, or that sort of organizational structure? I know as I'm watching some of the universities, they're putting together task force like Provost Folks has done, and but it needs to be wider. I see Chris Kopek here, who runs our facilities and maintenance operation here at the university, and does a great job. This is one of the most beautiful campuses of any university in the world, and Chris and his people keep this place going. He keeps it beautiful, but behind the scenes heats it and cools it, more importantly cools it, and keeps it operating. So how do we bring these different colleges, different disciplines, how does that fit into the incident command system?
It's a great question. The incident command system is meant to bring together diverse populations of subject matter experts that are needed to solve a complex problem. That's essentially it. So whether it's an earthquake, a hurricane, it's a combat operation, an active shooter, a whole host of things, or an example here at the university. About 30 years ago, a young officer in your department named Brian Seastone and I set up one of the first incident commands here because we had a heart attack in the stadium and recognized we could do it better. And so from that point on, every game it's invisible to the public. Every basketball game, every football game, there's a group, a logistician, somebody who understands the area, the campus, a medical provider, and a law enforcement provider, someplace embedded, and they have the keys to that kingdom. They know where ambulances are going to go. They know where EMS people come in. If something explodes, there's a team there to deal with it. That's an incident command system. So the civilian world uses it, the military world uses it, the government uses it, and it's been memorialized in the Department of Homeland Security, HHS, and FEMA. And so anybody's interested, if you go to FEMA.gov or DHS.gov and look up incident command, you'll see what looks like a phone book of documents, many of which I provided to you to make my case, that this has been tested over decades in very small incidents to very, very large incidents. And just about every one of the leaders who will be involved in this in the EOC, our Emergency Operations Center, which is more or less the planning center for this, every one of them has 3 or 4 decades of experience. Some of my ICS field folks, who I have worked with for decades personally, they are what they call Tier 1 operators. These are people that the federal government calls on when we have a disaster of national proportions or our allies need help. They'll be sent forward to provide incident command for foreign countries, neighboring countries, allies, and of course in the United States. So I think collectively when I looked at the team we're putting together, we have about a little over 200 years of experience with ICS. And myself, you know, having been a paramedic and a registered nurse and a physician and all these other jobs, I've been a first responder for over 50 years. So ICS is embedded as, just as we know the checklist in surgery, Bobby, you know, we don't start an operation before a certain checklist. I have a checklist for ICS because I've been at the small events as a responder and I've been at the big events nationally and globally representing the United States, putting together diverse resources. Sometimes they don't speak the same language. Sometimes they communicate differently, but yet it is like a symphony when it comes together and you execute very efficiently with the best information to accomplish a mission, and that's the mission you give us.
So I think you're going to be sort of like getting the band back together. You've been working with a lot of the people here at the university, your colleagues and fellow professors, and Dr. Rosales, Dr. Cecilia Rosales, and you have worked together for years, and she made a very good point. Dr. Folks had her running along with Dr. Hammer, who, interestingly enough, his brother and I worked together back at Stanford. He's a pediatric cardiac anesthesiologist, so I've enjoyed getting to know Dr. Hammer. But the two of them are sort of in charge of the testing operation here, and she said, none of this is going to work unless we can engage the students.
Yes.
And make them ambassadors to educate their peers about social distancing, about wearing face covering, about making sure that they are as healthy and practice the best hygiene policies possible. So we actually have, which you were part of starting, I think, almost 2 decades ago, one of the best student EMS services in the country. How do you envision them being part of this process?
Well, it's a great question, and I'm very proud of these youngsters because there's about 52 of them on campus, and they are as dedicated as the professionals that are out in the street. They've gone through training, and it was a few decades ago when I was the surgeon at Student Health that they came, because I ran the EMS system as well and the trauma system, and they came and said, we have an idea. We'd like to be able to take care of this city we call the University of Arizona, and we're students, and we're willing to get trained. So a number of us helped them, and here we are a couple of decades later, and it is a very well-organized machine. In fact, at our first meeting, the chief was sitting there with us because it was important, representing the students in EMS, that he was there. I've already spoken to him, and where I see them coming in as being educators, in other words, being student ambassadors. They do, every day they help our students who are sick or injured and get to the right place, but we can have them do more. They care about our university, they're passionate, they're knowledgeable, they can be educators, they can do a lot of things in welcoming students back. We also have at the College of Public Health, I've already talked to Dr. Iman Hakim, my boss in public health, and she is very, very passionate about letting our public health ambassadors come in. And we have a whole group of ambassadors who talk public health, who can work in communities and help to educate people. In addition, I've spoken to her about being able to embed graduate students, for instance, that are in public health pandemic tracks, that are learning how to be public health experts to deal with pandemics. Why not bring them in and put them alongside of some of our managers in this and have them have a real world experience as they're getting their master's or their doctorate? So all of those are in the plan, and we're real proud of that, to be able to draw on the richness of this university to make it an educational experience besides an operational experience.
So we're not a city of 60,000 in isolation.
Right.
We're actually embedded in one of the great cities of 1 million people, Tucson, Arizona.
Yes.
So you've done a lot of work, I know, with the mayor and the city council and in the county, in the state.
Yes.
In the nation, and with other international governments. You're constantly being asked to consult on these type of problems. How do you see what we're doing here, integrating in, collaborating with, fitting in to the plans that the city and the county have?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, and I want to give you credit for raising it because you raised it to me previously. And because of that, I've already had discussions with one of our faculty members, Dr. Francisco Garcia, who happens to be the health leader in the county, one of our former students and an attending physician, as well as with the mayor this past week. And again, because of your graciousness and your leadership, we are going to be looking to convene a meeting between the county and the city with the university to see about testing protocols and tracing that can be used regionally, so that we all don't have individual things. Because, you know, everybody's well-meaning, but the language is different. This is very complicated. People get confused. So I'm hoping we can work together to develop a uniform message, a uniform process that the average person then has great confidence in and sees that everybody's working together to protect them. And I think that is something that is necessary, and very few places can provide that degree of certainty and reliability than a university.
Yep.
And so, hence, I thank you for allowing me to reach out to our colleagues and see if we can convene that meeting here as part of our incident command system, and, you know, not only stay focused on our university as a city, the U of A city we'll call it, but also the larger regional geographic area that we have partial responsibility for.
That's fantastic. I think we open it up to questions. We don't want to keep everybody all afternoon, so what questions do we have? Pam, do you have?
So we'd like to invite the media up one by one to come to the microphone to ask your questions so that everybody can hear. So we would ask that you stay behind the X. We'll give it a minute. So is this
Bobby, maybe we answered them all.
Maybe so.
okay? We did get one by email. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I hear you very well.
Will classes be online, fully, or hybrid? What will class sizes be? And will online classes be an option, especially for those at increased risk?
So I think next week we'll have more answers to that when Dr. Folks and her group will be here to answer those kind of questions. I would say we're looking at as much flexibility as possible for not only our students, but also for our faculty and our staff. I mean, we've gotten fairly well at doing things by Zoom. I think there are a lot of people. I think if you look at you know, a recent national survey, 65% of students say that they would come back to the universities in a face-to-face manner, even without a vaccine. And let me just emphasize that. We're going to be in this mode for at least this entire academic year, because I don't see a vaccine being developed that's effective, be able to be manufactured, distributed and administered in less than a year. I think it's probably more like 18 months to 2 years. I was very encouraged by the Oxford group because they had been working on a MERS vaccine, but I read the initial paper that was just a preprint of it was put out that in fact that vaccine did not provide protection to a group of non-human primates it was tested in. It lessened the pneumonia that the control group had much more significant pneumonia, but it just shows that I think the fastest any vaccine has ever been started and delivered safely into humans at scale is probably 3 to 5 years. So I think we've got to learn how to live not necessarily in symbiosis with this virus, but how we carry on. So whatever we come up with, and I think the options are really kind of two, and Lisa will be able to give you more details about this as we go through this process. But one would be all face-to-face classes. It won't be that. I can pretty much tell you, because there are going to be particularly faculty members who fit the guidelines, the CDC and WHO guidelines, that are going to be at risk, either by their age or their age and their comorbidities, whether it be diabetes, cardiovascular disease, immunodeficiency syndromes, being actively treated with cancer. We would strongly encourage those individuals in those high-risk categories not to come back. Now, I've already been told by several faculty members, you can't stop me from coming back. I derive intense energy and enjoyment from my students, and I want to be there. But we're going to ask people, as Lisa always says, we don't know your health data. We can't determine that for you. You're going to have to do that, and then work with your dean, your supervisor, to decide how your class, the classes will be delivered. So I think it's going to be some sort of hybrid approach that we would have. Some classes will be in person with proper social distancing. We're obviously, I heard the president of University of Miami today on Chuck Todd's show talking about 3 T's, you know, test, trace, and treat. And he talked about the importance of personal distancing, face covering, making sure there's enough distance in the classroom, one-way entries in, one-way out. So there are a whole host of issues that we're going to have to deal with, but I think we want as much flexibility as possible. So there'll be some sort of hybrid approach where some universities are talking about, even Kentucky talked about it, and Stanford and the UC systems have talked about bringing those individuals back in person that are performers, meaning they need to do lab work, they need to dance or play an instrument or play football or do research. I think we'll be more inclusive than that, but that's another model that's out there. And that's the point of this process over the next 90 days is to deliberate, look at data, let the science guide us, and then make a final decision about which set of choices we're going to make. Liesl talks about all the time about wastewater-based epidemiology. Can we find hot spots in buildings before anyone even gets sick, for instance, so that we can test. So this is very, very complex. Hence, Rich has stepped up graciously to take the mantle to lead this complex effort.
Well, Mr. President, if I might just add, with the mission that you gave me, again, I think what I took away was you want me to drive this as hard as I can and have this university ready to open, but we're not going to open unless it's safe. And so I would like to frame it for those listening that as I look at the range of options, as the President has already stated, you can look at a full functioning university that goes back to the way it was. Well, that's probably not going to be the case, as you said. On the other hand, it could be entirely digital, which is possible. But our job is to look between those two, look at the data on a daily basis, which is being generated by epidemiologists, speaking with our doctors, student health, economists. Yes, economists will be part of the discussion as well. And so a multidisciplinary team that provides information into the incident command system, which is really just a place that brings in all this information. On a daily basis, we'll be providing information to the President and senior staff. On a weekly basis, we're going to have a press conference because we're going to do 100% transparency. We're going to keep you informed every step along the way so that at the end of the period, when the President says, I need to know by this day this information to be able to make an informed decision. If I open, don't open, or if I open, it has to be a hybrid. That's my challenge. So I have two parallel paths. One, looking and working with all of the infrastructure of the university to make sure it's ready to receive any and all or some students and faculty. And the other path with the scientists, led by Dr. Folks and others, to be able to look at the science. Where's our epidemiology? How many cases do we have? What's our population density? You may be surprised that one of the first things I said to the President, and I talked to the epidemiologist, I says, I want to know every day, what is the amount of cases we have on the campus in Tucson, Pima County, state of Arizona, all 50 states and select countries around the world. And somebody asked me why. Well, 15% of our students come from other countries. Many of our students come from other states where there's hotspots. So I have to be able to introduce that as a variable into the discussion to say, if I'm looking at students from New York, how do I ensure they're not bringing disease here? Okay, so you can see how complex this gets, and it can't be done without a team that the President has assembled under Dr. Folks, all those scientists giving us the information, putting it through that funnel that I call metaphorically the triage system, being able to then come out with some reasonable policy that I get to the President so he makes the best decision on behalf of the students, the families, and the faculty.
Okay, other questions?
All right, you can hear me here.
Yes, sir.
It was said recently that there was about 500 or 600 students remaining for the final 8 weeks here. I'm just wondering what kind of dialogue is happening between prospective students for next fall about on-campus living, and what have you learned from those 8 weeks taking care of the 500 and 600 students that remain?
Yeah, I think we've learned, and Dr. Folks has made this point to me over and over, that we haven't seen a lot of cases in the dorms. And as she correctly points out, these are not, I heard from another president who made the analogy that, you know, dorms with college students are a younger version of a nursing home or a cruise ship. That's not turned out to be the case. The data would show that we've not had a lot of cases in the dorms, and there's no outbreaks that I'm aware of any dorms across the country. So we're going to take all that very seriously, and as I said, in the subsequent weeks, we'll be able to bring you data and show you what we're thinking about how many students would be in each room. Would we only have single rooms? I think I said that the last time I was here. And then we've got, what we learned was that there are a lot of students who want to have roommates. And so we'll consider having 2 to a room, for instance, but it will look a lot different. There will be a lot of disinfecting. There'll be a lot of education about good public health hygiene, and caring not only for your own health, but those that you come in contact with.
I think I'd add what the President said, that I've had the opportunity to speak to a lot of students since I still teach here and I see them. I get the sense that they want to come back. I spoke the other day to our EMT chief, who happens to be a public health student. And, these are great platforms to be able to engage with, who can give us the sentiment, not only provide medical assistance, but just what are the students thinking? What are they interested in? Is there fear? Is there uncertainty? And overall, I know from the small sample of asking, the students want to come back. They love being part of the university community. They want to go to basketball games and football games and all of that. And obviously we have to temper that enthusiasm for a while. But I think the good news is if we can provide a safe haven, or as safe as possible, the students really do want to come back and be part of the Wildcat campus.
It's a nice touch with the Yankees hat. The Surgeon General grew up in the shadows of Yankee Stadium.
That's my first job, selling hot dogs and peanuts at Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
Hello to both of you. I'm Lucelia Caballero with KGUN 9. I have a couple of questions for you, and you kind of touched on the dorms, which was one of my questions, is how is that going to look like? Obviously in the dorms you have multiple floors, close proximity, and sometimes 2 to 3 people in a room. So
yeah.
do you...
I think we don't have the answer for that. That's why it's going to be important as Dr. Folks and Dr. Cantwell and other experts come and join us in these weekly updates. We'll have more and more answers. I know that she's grinding through that. Her task force is grinding through it. But I think the most likely option would be 1 or 2 people per room.
Maybe I'll add to what the President said. Obviously, part of the purpose of our incident command system is to gather all of that information and be able to provide the President with data so he can make decisions. So there's a number of options, but I'd like to maybe let you know how we're going to approach it. One of the most important things at the time when students coming back is, what is the incidence of disease at that time? How many people in Tucson have the disease? Where are they coming from? So all of those will get factored in to decide. But what I can tell you, and I think the President's alluded to, there will be masks, certainly in a dorm. There's going to have to be appropriate spacing. There's going to be a lot of hand washing. All of the regular public health things will still be there. But again, depending on where the so-called curve is, a lot of my colleagues believe that there's going to be another bump, that this could pick up again because people are starting to socialize. In addition, we're going into the next flu season. So it might be that we have another flu virus to deal with in addition to the coronavirus, which could mutate in the meantime. And that's also a supposition that some of the scientists are saying. So as the President pointed out, that's part of my job and my team's job, is to be monitoring that every day and always assessing it in the light of risk. And if we accept the risk, then what do we have to do with students here and faculty to mitigate that risk? And it'll be ongoing. Every week you'll hear about it. And eventually he'll decide when is the last day that we can be giving him information, because at some point we have to tell students yes or no. We have to tell parents to put students on planes or start driving. And so that's going to be ongoing. So today is really the first day that we're standing up the incident command system. And so we'll start aggregating data today, but we'll really hit the ground full force right after the holiday. And as you know, that's coming up right now. But that's the way we'll be looking at these issues, to give the President the best information.
And is that where the 3T approach comes in? And can you elaborate on that as well?
Yeah. So the 3T and the testing and tracing and tracking is basically, we like to test because it gives us information of who may be infected, who has antibodies. So very simply, if I do what's called a serology test and you're positive, it means you've been exposed. It doesn't mean you're sick, but you've got antibodies because the virus got to your body. So it could also imply that you have immunity, that you won't get sick again, and that's still being debated. Most virologists and immunologists believe that you do have immunity, but it's still being discussed because, again, this is a new virus. Nobody's seen it before. So we're extrapolating data from lots of coronaviruses in the past to be able to make that statement. The other thing is it helps epidemiologists track the degree of disease in the community when you know how many people are positive and negative, because it's estimated that up to 25% of people who are affected are asymptomatic. So you could have the virus and not even know it because you feel well or you just have a runny nose. So we get data from testing, as well as we're able to start predicting what we can do and shape our policy. And the second test is so-called PCR test. That's a test that tests directly for the virus in your body, and it's a second test. So we have some tools to be able to get the best information.
Okay, and then in terms of, did you want to add something, President?
No, I was just going to add that both Dr. Cantwell and Dr. Foltz have hundreds of faculty members, staff members, and students involved in these various working groups and putting these plans together to help answer the question, because every one of these questions needs a whole team debating, doing research on, discussing, and then coming to an agreement so that we could put policies in place.
Okay, and you guys kind of touched on out-of-state students coming in. What about international students coming in? Is there going to be a freeze on that? Are they going to be able to come back, or only?
I think if they can get into the country, you know, our hope is that the embassies will start to open and they can get visas to get back into the country. You know, our model for looking at how many students to expect coming forward was that 80% of our first year outside U.S. students probably won't be able to get back to campus. I hope that more of them can come back, and we think there's going to be about a 30% loss of the students who are already here. Our international students are one of the highest retaining numbers of any of our student population. Once they come here, they kind of settle on the University of Arizona and they stay with us. Mm-hmm. But several of them left to go back when we closed the campus during spring break and aren't going to be able to get back. Now, we do have an incredible effort now that over 100 sites around the world for our global campus sites, and we've been saying if you're part of the University of Arizona family and you want to have an on-campus experience, go to one of our micro campuses all over the world and get that experience, get the University of Arizona credits, and then in January maybe come back or next fall.
And I know tuition has been locked right now, but is this going to affect maybe online tuition being more expensive or less expensive? Are there going to be additional fees for students?
Yeah, I don't see that there are going to be additional fees. And you bring up an interesting point about the online price. I think that you're actually going to see online tuition go down now because there's going to be so many more people going into an online or a digital virtual remote mode. And I think that what's going to be successful will be, can you differentiate from a straight out MOOC to a regular online to what I call the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze version of these different offerings online? Because if you're a public health student and you can Zoom with your advisor, the Surgeon General here, once a week, versus you just look at lectures and that's about it. Those are different offerings. So I think you're going to start to see differentiated price in the market for online, and we're discussing that. I know ASU, for instance, is very sophisticated in their offering for online teaching and learning. So I think you're going to see some different pricing based on the services that are delivered.
Okay, and my last question for you both, actually. Dr. Cremona, you mentioned that students that you've spoken to want to come back. So for those that want to come back but might have some reservations due to safety, what's your message to them and maybe their families as well? Are you ready? Are you prepared? Will they be safe on campus?
Well, this is the first step for being ready and prepared. We have, as the president said, about 100 days or so now to get this all ready. And I think that, well, I quite frankly applaud the president's decision to bring together all of his faculty to answer these questions rather than doing it arbitrarily. The truth is today we don't know for sure, but we will in the near future have all the information we need. And as I said, it's going to be aggregated every day, best practices, if you will, crowdsourcing information in a university that has world-class experts to be able to answer all those questions. So as I said when I started, there'll be two paths. One is working with all of the logistical people and the people that run the campus to make sure that all of the infrastructure is in place. The second track is making sure that it's safe for them to come back, and safety defined as what's the disease prevalence, incidence at that time, and so on. then the president can make the best decision at that time as to when and if the university opens and how it will. But make no mistake, we are going ahead to have the university ready to open, provided it can be done safely, because that's the mission that we've been given by the president.
But I just add to that is we are very cognizant of the fact that we cannot make it completely safe. The provost and I talk about the word safe. You know, using the terms provide maximum protection, to mitigate the risk, those kind of words. But safe is a relative term, and we cannot make this completely 100% safe.
Right.
And so we understand that. The question is, each individual person has to make the choice, whether they're a faculty member, a staff member, or a student, and their families and loved ones have to make a choice. Are they willing to take the risk of getting this infection by coming back to campus? We're going to do everything we can to drive the risk of the virus being transmitted, but we can't make it perfectly safe.
Thank you.
Welcome. Other questions?
No other questions?
Okay.
All right. We thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Well, we'll be available after, but before we close out this first one, it was right on, Pam. Very, very nice job. 45 minutes. Before we end, we'll be coming back to you next week. Not exactly sure the time. Pam will do it, but I just wanted to invite up Chris Sigerson, because this is Chris's last day at the University of Arizona. So I want to give him a big thank you. Chris, thank you for everything you've done. I'm going to miss you. I hope you have fun driving around with your dually, pulling your Airstream or whatever you're going to do. And hopefully you'll come back to visit frequently. Thank you for everything you've done for us.
Thank you for this. It's had a lot of fun, a lot of opportunities to do some work, and it's been a pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Till next week. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Bobby.